Estimated 215 pounds from Air Scotland. This is Lionheart.
Hi there everyone, I'm Billy Kirkwood for ICW On Demand and another one of our special In Profile series. And today I'm going to be talking to one of the most polarizing characters in professional wrestling today. To some he's known as an icon, to some he's known as a villain, to some he's known as a hero, to others he's known as a fan favourite. I am going to be talking to Lionheart. Thank you very much for joining.
Pleasure.
I wouldn't do that with you sitting right there for the start.
All good.
All good. It's such a journey, and I'm not just saying that because you're here. It has been, how long have you been actively wrestling?
It's almost 15 years now.
15 years.
Yeah.
And it's been a big journey during that course.
It's had its moments.
Had its moments. So let's go right back to the beginning. Mm-hmm. When did we make the transition from the young man, the teenager, to the wrestler? Why do you suddenly decide this is going to be a thing? What takes you to the ring?
Obviously I was really into wrestling growing up, as everyone is, but I think a lot of people, as they grow older, they kind of get to that stage where they grow out it, because it's like it's not cool anymore to like wrestling, and I never really grew out it at all. And it was kind of like when I went to college and I started kind of really engaging with people that were still really big wrestling fans, and that's when you started to really talk about what you wanted to do with your life as a career and your qualifications and everything else. And every time I would say, I want to be a professional wrestler, at the time it was really difficult to pursue that because there wasn't really schools in Scotland or around. And then one day we got a flyer in. I actually said there was a training school in East Kilbride, and I thought, there we go, let's go. So I went with my mate, and that was it. It was just.
Did your mate keep it going?
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
No, I did not.
So you managed it. So you go to the training school. We won't go too much into that just now. So you've got the training under your belt. Now it's time to get ring time.
Yeah.
Not an easy thing to do in the UK round about then, because it was a very small scene. You've got the small, we'll call them professional wrestling shows, but you've also got tributes and that type of thing coming around. So how did you go from, right, I've got my training, ready to go, I want to make a run at this. And when in a world that's telling you can't.
Yeah, it's difficult because you don't know what to expect.
Okay.
Initially when I first went to the training school, I was put on a show within 3 weeks, which should just have never happened. I was not ready for that in any way, shape or form. But obviously at the time you're absolutely buzzing. You just think, brilliant, I'm going to wrestle on a show. And at the time it was a show in Barhead, and the Barbarian was on it, which at the time was, I thought, oh my God, going to be a wrestling show with the Barbarian. And Doug Williams was on the show as well, who, I mean, I wasn't really a British wrestling fan at that time. It wasn't until I got into my training and I started obviously researching and, looking at the kind of history of British wrestling, etc. But I knew through my trainers and things, it was a big deal and whatever else.
Because people don't realise that British wrestling was off TV for a long time.
Yeah.
For a long time. I mean, I think eventually made its way to Sky with FWA, but like you say, there's no real way to access British wrestling.
No, there wasn't really. So you just, even if you were a wrestling fan, you didn't necessarily know. In fact, you probably didn't know there was a British wrestling scene. Okay. I certainly didn't. I was aware that there was the odd show in school, maybe down in England, but that was about it. So when these shows were happening, kind of like Scotland and the Barbarians on it, and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be on a wrestling show here, and it was terrible. The match was absolutely terrible.
Do you remember who you were working with?
I was in a 6-man tag match. It was, oh God, who was it? Red Lightning was in it. I know that.
There we go.
He was in it as well.
How long had he been going? Had he been going about the same level of time?
He'd started just before me, I think.
Right. He'd been gone 4 weeks.
He'd been there a little while. It was myself, him, and a wrestler called Draven Cage against my mate who I'd went to training with, who was called Glacier. Right. A guy called Whiplash Crash, I think.
Whiplash Crash.
Yes, and a big guy called Colobus.
Colobus?
Yes.
Okay.
It was the shits. It was awful. But obviously you're having the time of your life. Okay. You think you're absolutely invincible. And it was brilliant. It was really great. And then from there, it just kind of snowballed really.
My first impression of Adrian Lionheart McCallum, honestly, not good. Not good at all. I did not like him, and he did not like me. The feeling was definitely mutual. We had just complete conflicting personalities. The way I was, the way he was, just did not match. And it was never a secret. It was never like a secret, hatred for each other. It was very, very public. We would not be in the same room as each other, wouldn't work each other. And although we didn't like each other, I feel like we always tried to, instead of avoiding each other, we tried to wind each other up. Not for a laugh, because we did not like each other. So if I remember we went to, it was a 30th birthday party, and he avoided me the whole night. And every time if I walked into the bar, he'd go to the lounge. So I would walk into the lounge and he would go to the toilet, and then suddenly I needed to pee. So I'd go to the toilet and then he'd go outside. Too warm in here. Then I'd go outside. And just childish stuff really, you know what I mean? The stuff boys do. But it's amazing how things change, because I would never, ever in a million years think back then that we would be amicable, let alone good friends and colleagues like we are now.
I first met Adrian Lionheart McCallum, to give him his full name, when I was 15 years old in the post office in East Kilbride, and BCW training where the likes of myself, Red Lightning, Kid Fight, Mark Dallas was there for a while, and Drew McIntyre, Galloway. And this skinny, sallow-skinned guy with a massive beak showed up with a pal called Rab, who had a tattoo on his belly button saying Rab. He didn't last long. But right away, Lionheart was full of talent and obviously passion for professional wrestling, and I think one of the first moves I remember him doing was a Hurricane Rana, so he was always up for the dramatic flair of, like, he was influenced by RVD, and I think I was his favourite at the time actually. So first impressions was, he was alright, he was easy enough to talk to, but he didn't last long. He disappeared. He got a match in Barhead. Him and Rab were in a team, I think, in a 6-man. I can't tell you who else was in it, but he had that match and then disappeared for a few years until BCW's wrestling school moved to Rutherglen, and he showed up again. And he was only a few years older than me, but he was always the mature one. Like, he would always be the one that would speak up if something wasn't right, or if somebody was being a fanny, he'd be the one to call them out on it. I don't know what his first impressions of me would have been, because I was always at the wind-up. I was always carrying on, and a few times he's actually shouted at me during training to calm down and stop carrying on. But over the years in training, we became very good friends.
So you've gone from the 6-man tag, but you just consider how far you went, because even as both from Ayrshire down by the coast, I was aware of Lionheart long before we ever met here in ICW. So you got a reputation very quick. Why do you think you did get that reputation as being a real up-and-comer, a name on the scene, even at that young age? How do you think that came about?
I don't know really. I mean, my first kind of year or so of wrestling, I was only wrestling really every kind of 2-3 months, because there wasn't a lot of shows really. And the first kind of shows that I really got good exposure and experience on was in Kilmarnock in the Grand Hall. Lovely, big venue. I mean, these shows were packed at the time. There was like 400 or 500 people here sometimes. So I think when I look back now, and I think to be fortunate enough to be on shows of that size with, some of the talent that the company at the time was bringing in, I think that was a big factor. It brought quite a bit of attention. The company that was running there was booking guys like Mick Foley. Yeah. So to be on shows with guys like that, I think it put a little bit of a spotlight on.
Who are you learning from? Because, I mean, obviously you get your training and you're learning every time you're in a ring. I mean, it's something that it's said a certain generation of wrestlers now don't really appreciate, but it's about, keeping your mouth shut, your ears open and learning. Who were you learning from then in that period?
It's kind of a few different people. I mean, the training school was run by British Championship Wrestling at the time. It was run by a guy called MIKEY. The guys I really learned the kind of wrestling side of from was more Wolfgang and Drew Galloway, to be honest.
Okay.
I mean, by all accounts, they were still trainees themselves, but they'd been there, a little bit of time, and they were the kind of the elite trainees, so to speak, in the school. So I learned pretty much a lot of stuff from them. Out with that, I think it's fair to say a lot of guys that came through that time were kind of self-taught, because there was nobody really. It's not like nowadays where you have so many different people and facilities like is available just now. I mean, when I went to training school, it was just literally mats in the floor in a post office. So there's only really so much you can really learn. So you kind of self-teach yourself. Yeah. Back then it was just more about kind of the respect side of things and listening and a lot of the kind of drills and stuff like that. So the actual wrestling side of stuff you kind of develop as you go and get more experience.
So it's a big thing, isn't it? I mean, I'm not a competitor myself. I don't know. It's a big thing, that discipline, that respect.
Yeah.
To learn that. I mean, I think it might have been Robbie Brookside that said you learn almost 90% of what's outside the ring before you get in the ring.
Yeah.
Is that something that you found being still a very young man, but getting into these positions and getting more experience? Was that something you had to work to make that transition for?
Not really. I mean, I did martial arts before I went to wrestling, so
Right.
I was already fairly disciplined in that respect. I wasn't, a stranger to training and discipline and things like that. Obviously very different, and they've got different ideas of, what respect should be and whatever else, but the basics of it I was kind of familiar. It wasn't a brand new shock to me in that respect, so I was able to kind of adapt to it fairly well.
Now, the scene in the UK in the late 2000s wasn't particularly good. I don't think that's unfair to say. There were spot companies all across the UK, but none of them seemed to really get any traction with fans. Obviously, WWE, WCW were huge things in the early 2000s, but for some reason, people just didn't cast their eyes on the scene here in the UK. A couple of names would break through, of course, but around about the sort of mid to late 2000s, there was a change. There started being more shows, more fans, it became more accessible. And how did you feel for that? Was that an exciting time for a young man that's he's getting matches going from getting matches every 3 months to potentially, this could be a thing, this could be a job?
It's kind of a hindsight thing, at the time you don't really have that full appreciation of it. It's just happening, and you're kind of going along with it and you're enjoying it, and you're doing your best and everything else. It's not until later on, like, you look back and you think, man, I was really lucky to be able to kind of progress at that rate and get those different kind of shows. At the time, you don't consciously think to yourself, this is really great, this is building really, really fast here, this could become something. You're just enjoying the ride as it's kind of going on, so to speak. But definitely when I look back, I think to myself, there was a lot of good opportunities there that probably myself and others should have had a little bit more appreciation for at the time.
So what do you think was the first companies in Scotland to kind of start this renaissance period, the sort of boom of professional wrestling here in Scotland? What do you think were the first companies to start get that sort of going?
Probably the two main companies were British Championship Wrestling and the Scottish Wrestling Alliance. There were other companies around Scotland, but they were the first two that were really putting on kind of regular, really great sell-out shows of 400 or 500 a time. BCW were the first ones to really explore bringing in the kind of international talent. They had brought in guys like Honky Tonk Man, Marta Jannetty. Then it went a bit more mainstream. They brought in guys like D'Lo Brown, Mick Foley. So they were the ones to really explore the mainstream international side. Certainly in Scotland. Anyway, SWA focused more on their own talent from their training school and their own wrestlers, but still really good shows, sell out 400 or 500 a time. So between these two companies, you had what was considered a pretty exciting time in Scottish wrestling.
I think I'll remember the first time I met Lionheart. It's important. I don't think he'll remember the first time he met me. First time I ever met him was like, I can't remember the year, donkeys ago, back when Scottish Wrestling Alliance were running Clydebank Town Hall. And I think he's on main, came in dead late, kind of went in, did his match, and I'm sure everybody has probably had similar starts to this story, but when I first met Adrian, he was a bit of a prick. But I think all it really is Lionheart was a bit epic, and we just didn't know who Adrian was at that time. Back when I was coming through, he was always like the guy that was like main eventing our shows and stuff like that. And he was always like, it's hard to figure out how to put this. When you went to a school and you've seen like the people that were there, you think, no, you could like definitely like make it. He was going to be like always going to be the big person that was like, no, that's like a wrestler.
Like, we're both very polarising characters in the sense you either really like us or you really don't. When I first had an interaction with Adrian, we were far from friends. But slowly but surely over time, we built up at least a mutual level of respect for one another.
So the fans, they've changed with the wrestlers, because we've gone away from the sort of the bingo halls and what have you across the UK, the scout huts, away from the easy clapping hands and that type of thing, because the wrestling's changed. I mean, the style of wrestling's changed. It's, some people might say it's become very American or but even Japanese, but it became a sort of hybrid. Competitors like yourself, who once upon a time have been encouraged to be, well, just go out there, son, and just clap your hands, give the people what they want. Was that a conscious decision a generation of guys were making, that you as wrestling fans were going, no, this is the wrestling we want to do?
I don't think it was a conscious decision as such. I mean, I think it's a fair statement, 90+% of people who want to be wrestlers are influenced by American wrestling. So I think it just became a natural, progression of such. It's not until, it's almost the other way around, it's not until you get into it, you're influenced by the American side most likely. You start doing shows, but then you start getting the appreciation for the kind of British side and the very kind of the all-star camp style and things like that, because you didn't know what that was. You never saw someone going out on Raw as well, doing clapping their hands and chatting easy. It was a new thing. So when you first went, you were very, Americanized in terms of what you thought the wrestling was going to be. So I don't think it was a conscious decision, it's just that's what you thought wrestling was at the time until you got in and realised there was a whole other world to it.
It's a good observation actually, because you do kind of get a total appreciation for that type of wrestling now. I love Cat Weasel, for the record. I absolutely love Cat Weasel. But this brings us to ICW. There was people who want to make money at professional wrestling, they're gearing it towards families, and that's what people are wanting. But was there a real desire to do something different? I mean, there was obviously, ECW had been a phenomenon in the mid-90s to 2000s really. It was around almost a hiccup. People don't really realise that. Where did that start for you? Because obviously, was it just another booking, or was there a real desire for this little upstate company called ICW that was going to run these shows in Maryhill, and it was going to be for over 18s or over 16s, as I think it was at the time? Was there a real desire for you going, this is something different?
Not initially. Initially, it was just another booking. My first experience with ICW was actually sitting in the crowd. I was very much an active wrestler at the time, but his first couple of shows, I think the first two I didn't do. His first couple of shows, I was just there, kind of like either helping out with the ring or just observing the show in the crowd. And I remember when I seen the first couple of shows, I actually thought, this is shit. And I just thought Mark Dallas was an idiot. I've told him this. Just thought he was an absolute idiot who didn't have a clue what he was doing, and his head was in the clouds. And I think he had a gap time before he started coming back and running other shows, and then he booked me on those ones. And once I actually got on the show and I'd done a few, and it was just a whole different experience of the whole over 18 thing. You could obviously push the envelope a lot more. You were a lot more free to do things physically and verbally. And once I actually kind of got in there and thought, this is really fun actually. And you could tell people just really, really seemed to enjoy it. Much differently than they do it. It wasn't just the kind of the clap of the hands and the boo. It was like a real, this is fucking brilliant. Do you know what I mean? So, and once you were actually in there and a part of it, I thought, all right, okay, this is quite good. And I still was fairly reserved in my judgment of it, to be honest with you, because Mark would tell you these big grand plans, and he'd be like, oh, ICW is going to be this, and I'm going to take it here. And he was always very clear and direct about what his vision was, and he's never ever strayed from that. And you have to give him massive respect for that. But at the time, I was just thinking, yeah, no problem. I'm just taking bookings off you, mate, to be honest. And then as it progressed, you start to thought, nah, something's happening here. Yeah. This is going to be good.
Because there was a real underground thing, was ICW. Like even in almost before, I mean, YouTube was in its infancy when ICW
Yeah.
was getting going, and people were, I don't even know what they were watching it on Messenger or stuff like that. It was just these tapes getting around.
Yeah.
I mean, my connection to it was, I mean, I knew the wee man, he's getting brought in. Dallas is doing lots and lots of different things to just try and get eyes
yeah.
on this. But they are real honest on the roster as well. You guys are just getting freedom
Yeah.
to do whatever you want. And yourself and Wolfgang and well, I guess James Scott and Red Lightning. So it's, you guys are the four main guys.
Probably,
it would have to be said.
At the time,
Yeah.
I would guess we were the ones at the shows were kind of mainly built around, and you quickly start to realise that you can just have fun with it and just say some things that you just kind of really want to say. You get away with it because it's like, it's part of the show, and as the crowds were building, and you mentioned the wee man there, that was a big deal at the time.
Yeah.
When he came in, because here was this, everybody was cutting about singing that song. Everybody, I don't care who you are or what you say, everybody was doing it, right? He's got this video online and everybody's jumping about singing this song.
Hear you, well, be right. I heard you try to knock my stash last night. Hear you, what's the fucking script? You're a wee ball bag, your jaw's getting ripped. Hear you stupid wee dafty, don't want to get your mouth about a hat and Roy Hofty. Roy jump on your heat, I'll teach you for stealing my weed.
So when he comes in and then he goes out in front of a live crowd and he's doing his entrance, the boys in the back are popping more than the fucking crowd. Because we're on the back like, don't use any of you. So it was like, at that time you're thinking, this is brilliant, this can't get any better than this. This is just fun, this is absolutely amazing. And obviously it just kind of exploded from there, but that was a time when you really felt, aye, this is good. And myself and the other guys and the kind of the gold label thing really took off, and that's when I think you started to feel part of something special. Before that it was just fun. You were just having fun and it was a good laugh and you were with mates and the boys and everything else. The gold label thing is when you really started to think, this is special, people are into this.
So jumping out of ICW is getting traction. You guys are then getting traction and you start making steps across the border. You're wrestling for companies up and down the UK, and a lot of the companies are wanting Lionheart. How did that feel? Was that vindication, or was it a slightly nervous thing? Well, this is something new.
A combination probably. I think, don't know for sure, but certainly in my opinion, I think I was really the first guy to actually actively go out and actually try and put my name out there. I had an actual paper CV of who I was and companies I'd wrestled for, and I had a DVD of matches and 8x10 promo pics, and I would get promoter addresses and I would post them out, and I would actually try and actively get my name out and about there. Even years later when social media kind of exploded, I was really the first guy to properly try and use that to kind of get my name out there as well. So I don't think people just jumped up and said, we want Lionheart. I think it was a case of I put my name in front of them and it was like, all right, okay, yeah, we've heard a little bit about you.
So there's that drive that we've heard about since day one.
Yeah.
How do the other wrestlers react to that? How do they feel about it?
I think initially, and I didn't help myself in a lot of scenarios as well either when I say this, I think initially it rubbed some people the wrong way. People very often, not so much now, but people very often throw around the word politics in wrestling. And it's like, he's politicking to get down there. It's like, what is that? What does that mean, politics? If you mean, yeah, I'm approaching promoters and introducing myself and saying I'd like to work for you, then yeah, call me a politician. But that's not, you're just actively trying to put yourself out there. I think a big thing for a lot of people is that for quite a number of years, Lionheart was the perception of Scottish wrestling. If you thought Scottish wrestling, you thought Lionheart. So if I was kind of like how people perceived what Scottish wrestling was, and it's not that I was better than anyone else or nobody else deserved to get out and about like I was doing. It's just that I was really actively pursuing it. I had just decided this is the direction I'm going in, and I'm just pursuing it, and I'm not really letting anything stop me. So I think initially people were kind of like, look at this guy. Years later, I think it became quite a good thing because it opened doors and whatever else. But initially, I think it got me a little bit of negative attention.
But I got your bookings.
It did.
Got your bookings at the end of the day. Sorry, just that's my own personal opinion coming into that a little bit. Got your bookings.
Drop that in there.
Got your gigs, man. Just that's how it works. That's how it works. But so you're getting real traction across the UK. Coming by the ICW. ICW is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's going from studio just up the road. It's going to the if I remember, Classic Grand, Garage. All eyes are getting on it. Things are going really well, and you're working 2 different characters in different places, right? How is that, first of all? Because there's a real. I'd use the term polarizing because in some there is this. I hate using the term. I'll use hero. I don't like using the insider term, right? You're a hero in some places, and in other ones, you're a villain.
Yeah.
How was that to play those real polarizing different characters? Because I literally could go and see you wrestle in Kilmarnock. And big fanfare, loved them, and then getting booed out of the building. That was at the time when you were playing that character. How did you even manage to get those transitions, or was it just a case of just the booking?
Initially, it's just you kind of learning as you go. I didn't really get any experience working as a villain until really I stepped outside of Scotland. Anywhere I wrestled in Scotland, I was kind of considered the poster boy, the big baby face, like the tan, the tattoos. This is what this is the good guy. And it wasn't really until I went outside of Scotland and you do the Scotland-England thing, that's when I really started to get the benefit and experience of working as a villain. You just accept it for what it is. That's what you're booked to do. You're paid to be the bad guy. Yeah. So you go and do it, and the more you do it, you kind of learn that being the bad guy is much more fun, and there's much more ways to get people to be pissed off than it is to get them to like you, to be honest. So, but initially, my first kind of couple of years was always the good guy thing, and it wasn't until I went out and about I started to get the villain experience, and that's when you really come into your own as a performer, because you get to learn a bit about yourself and really how to work a crowd.
So 2006, 2007, the Scottish Adonis that is Drew Galloway gets signed and taken over to America at the young age of 21 years old, leaving behind him a big gap to be filled in the Scottish wrestling scene, and someone had to step up and kind of fill the shoes that Galloway had set for everyone. So personally, the only 2 options were myself or Lionheart, and I beat him to the post. And I think Lionheart would always kind of, he'll tell you so, he would always look up to me, he would always kind of ask me for advice, and going forward, we had a lot of respect for each other inside the ring. As I said earlier, we had great chemistry, so we would bounce ideas off each other, and I was the one that was handed the torch once Galloway left, with PBW, SWA and BCW all putting their heavyweight titles on me. Although the trouble is, when you're at the top of the food chain, there's only one way to go, and that's a very steep hill and a very steep drop. And it wasn't just, I had 3 titles, BCW, PBW and SWA. And normally, if you have got one guy holding 3 titles, you wouldn't expect the next guy of each one of those companies to then go ahead and take all 3 titles off you. So, I mean, as I said earlier, it was my opinion that there was only 2 people that could have filled those shoes, and I was first to do it. And then secondly, Lionheart just swanned in and took everything off me. By 2008, I had no titles left, and they were all on Lionheart, because he had the drive and the passion, and he had this commitment that he was going to be a star no matter what. So first port of call was taking all the titles off Wolfgang, declaring himself the Grand Slam.
Now, things within almost a year are exploding. We've got the gold label. One of the first angle, I hate using that term, the first storyline, we'll call it what it is, of its time, of its like in Scotland, really exploded. This is expanding. TV came and went. Got a better thing now, thank you very much. And within that happening, TNA, take a look. Now, you were the first Scottish-born wrestler, I believe, at least at the time, to work for TNA, and certainly over at the. How did that all come about, and what was the experience like for you?
Initially, I was contacted by them shortly before their tour in January. They were doing tours every year in January. They wanted a Scottish guy for the Glasgow show. So realistically, I was a local talent for the Glasgow show to obviously try and boost it. Obviously, it was painted as a kind of much bigger picture than that, and certainly I went out of my way to paint it as a much bigger picture than that as well. When they initially contacted me, it it was really exciting, obviously, because it was really out of the blue. I think I was on holiday at the time. It was actually Doug Williams that sent me a message because he was obviously contracted to TNA at the time, and it was just, "Hi mate, are you free to work TNA in January?" I was like, okay. So, and then I had set up, I had a meeting with Simon Rothstein and Jeff Jarrett in Glasgow to just kind of discuss how they were going to play it out. And they wanted to make it a thing, an actual story that they could build towards the show. So Jeff Jarrett was going to come to the training school as if he was doing like a seminar, gut check type thing. And there was going to be an angle where he hit me with a guitar, and it was on their website, and they were building this as a big marquee match. And I was thinking, fucking hell, this is nuts. I got a bit ahead of myself with it.
Right.
Truth be told,
What do you mean by that?
I went into that believing I was going to get signed to a contract.
Okay.
Whether that's a combination of my own ego or letting people blow smoke up my arse, but it was just, everything was just happening so fast, and it was just, they were putting so much into it. I mean, they really made it feel and sound like a big deal. And as I was heading towards it, I was thinking, surely, so they don't have a Scottish guy. Surely they're going to need a Scottish guy. And obviously that didn't happen. So I think after that, I became a little bit deflated slightly. But certainly in the run up to it, it was by far the most exciting thing that I had done. And to just be on a show that size for that company, which at the time was considered
a big deal,
a huge deal. At that point, I thought to myself, can I really get any better than this? It was one of my more favourite experiences in wrestling, I have to say.
So ICW is expanding, your career's expanding. You're getting to wrestle all around the UK. TNA, shown interest. You wrestle, though, within about an 18-month period. You do what no other British wrestler, let alone Scottish wrestler, has done. You wrestle for TNA. You wrestle for WWE. What was the situation with that? Was that just another phone call? Because it wasn't in Scotland you wrestled for them, was it?
No, it was Liverpool.
Yes.
It was in Liverpool. I was on a show in England for 1PW, and the Road Dogg was on the show, and I pulled him aside backstage, and I said, I introduced myself, told him who I was. I just told him pretty directly that my aspirations were to go to WWE, and could he please watch my match, and if he saw anything that he felt I needed to improve on, or just any kind of feedback, it would be appreciated. So he did that. And he said he liked what he saw. He said, I think you've got something special, so I'm going to go and mention your name. That might get you nothing, but I'm going to put your name forward because, I think there's potentially something there.
And Road Dogg is now a senior producer
at
WWE, so, I mean, he'd be the person to ask. But within a year, you're wrestling for TNA, WWE, and you're wrestling for the ROH World title, which is a huge deal now, and it was a huge deal then. That must have been great to get a call from another North American company.
Yeah.
We want you to wrestle for our title. So that's a great opportunity. What are you thinking? Bearing in mind how the TNA thing went, WWE took a look at you. It didn't lead to anything at that point.
Yeah.
What's going through the mind of Lionheart at that time?
The Ring of Honor thing was really last minute, in all honesty. It was Nigel McGuinness, he was booked for a 1PW show in England as well. And I think it was supposed to be in a three-way match, or it was booked for. I wasn't involved in it anyway. And I remember getting a phone call from the booker the day before, saying, we've had to change the plan for tomorrow's show. You're now wrestling Nigel for the Ring of Honor title. I was like, okay, no problem. Let's see how that goes. It ended up becoming a triple threat match anyway, because we'd done the singles match, and then they decided, we're going to make it a four-way. But then one of the other guys pulled out, so then it became a three-way. It was a bit messy in the end, but we got there eventually. So it was all very last minute, that, to be honest with you. That was my first time meeting and kind of working with Nigel, which was brilliant, an amazing learning experience, absolutely fantastic talent. But it was really thrown together last minute. So it wasn't like Ring of Honor didn't pick up the phone and say we want Lionheart to wrestle for the title. It was just a case of Nigel was on the show, he was happy to defend the title, and they decided that I was going to be one of the guys to do it.
Right. So, but you're building this CV, and it's looking very, very good. You've wrestled for WWE, TNA, ICW is doing well. Then, out of blue to many of us, fans especially, we start hearing rumours. Never really confirmed, but there was rumours that you were winding things up.
Yeah.
What? Why?
It was I'd went through a phase of being very disheartened with wrestling. Combination of my ego, I guess, being a little bit immature and looking at things a bit differently. I'd become very self-entitled in the sense that I'd always been taught that if you work hard, pay your dues, do everything that you're supposed to do, you'll make it. And that's bullshit, because you won't. That's not a guarantee. And that's not something I was ever told. There's no guarantees. So I got to a point where I was thinking, I'm approaching 30, I've been looked at by TNA, I've been looked at by WWE, I've got a really great CV, I'm by all accounts a successful British wrestler. I didn't really drink alcohol at all, I went to the gym, I didn't do drugs. Why the fuck am I not getting signed? And it annoyed me, and I got angry. And then TNA were doing a thing called British Boot Camp, which in some respects, through various means, I was led to believe that I would be a part of, and then I wasn't. And that for me at that point was just immaturely, I just thought, do you know what, fuck this. I don't want to do this anymore. It's pointless. It's pointless. I'm not going to make it.
What was going to be the plan after wrestling?
I don't know. I was just going to go away and, I guess, live a normal life, you know, just have a normal job, start a family, get married, I don't know, I just thought, I'm not doing wrestling anymore. And I genuinely believed in my heart at the time when I made the decision that that's what I needed to do. I didn't necessarily want to do it as such, and it wasn't very long at all before I realised I made a very silly, immature mistake. But at the time, I just decided, nah, I can't be bothered with this anymore, it's pointless. Was
this about the time you started thinking about coaching or your own promotion?
No, I was just disgruntled with wrestling in general, really, to be honest. I mean, I was already running my own kind of shows at that point, which I was enjoying doing. It was just a different side of the business, and I knew realistically that I would continue to probably promote my own events and things. I had kind of fleeting ideas about a training school, but by no means nothing concrete. I wasn't leaving active wrestling to pursue a career as a promoter or a coach. I just went in the huff. As me being blunt, I just thought, I'm leaving. I'm not doing this.
But by the time you meant it, you did this retirement to farewell tour, if you like. I think we had maybe your last match, maybe your second last match.
Last one in Scotland, yeah. I think I only had one more after that, yeah.
Yeah, and it was an emotional night. It was a very emotional night. So, but you left the building. Mm-hmm. When did the itch start coming? When did it get to the point where I can't deny this anymore? Or was it just you needed to clear your head?
I kind of knew before I left.
Right.
To be honest, there's a moment in the ring at ICW, my last match. I'm in the corner, I'm crying like an absolute child. And at that moment, I'm literally thinking to myself, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I'd never felt as loved and appreciated and rated as I did that night. And I know in hindsight that was probably just because, it was being billed as my last match and I was just getting the polite send off. But at the time I just thought, I don't want to leave this. But at that point I had to. I couldn't just turn around and say, I'm not leaving. So I thought I'm just going to be stubborn and stick with my decision, even though in my heart I know it's the wrong one. And then shortly afterward, within days, I was just thinking, I've done it. I've absolutely made a mess of this. And then something came up with TNA again. Jeff Jarrett contacted me. They were doing this gut check thing, which was going to be the online voting thing, blah, blah. And he phoned me and he said, listen, I'm going to put you in this. It's only supposed to be for people who'd actually gone and done one of their gut checks. Mm-hmm. He said, I know you haven't done it, but you've had the thing with ourselves and me, so I'm going to put you in this and see if anything becomes of it. So then I latched onto this and I started kind of really pushing for that and thinking, right, this is it now, maybe this is my chance. And then that never played out, but that whole thing was a fucking shambles, to be honest with you, in all honesty. But very, very quickly I realised I'd made a mistake and I was kind of wanting to come back. I just didn't know how to do it. I thought I'd just turn around and say, I want to come back. So kind of started making wee comments like to certain promoters and things, or, you know, speaking to my mates, I'll see, I might come back. And truth be told, there wasn't really a big feeling of, you know, come back, open arms. So I kind of just let it quietly glide along, and I thought I'll wait and see what happens. So I knew at some point I was probably going to try and come back. I just didn't know how I was going to. I was embarrassed. I turned around and told people I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. You know, people's given me a wonderful, respectful send off. You know, I've went to my best mate at the time, Barry Wolfgang, and said, look, I want to give you my last ICW match. He's gave a big heartfelt speech, and I'm just going to turn around and then say I'm coming back. And that must have pissed him off. I would have been annoyed. Do you know what I mean? I think he would probably have took that as a slap in the face, and you know, as well he should have. But yeah, it didn't take long to realise I'd made a mistake.
All right, well, we finally get the return of Lionheart, which, if memory serves, and please correct me if I'm wrong, was actually at the Kelvin Hall.
Yes.
You hadn't wrestled in 6 months, legit. Hadn't wrestled in 6 months. I think sometimes always go, even in British, like, oh, there must have been a show somewhere, there must have been, you hadn't wrestled at all. It would be you versus Noam Dar in what was easily the match of the night. I'm not just saying that because we're sitting across from each other. It was nice for me to sit and watch a show when I wasn't commentating for a start. Easily the match of the night against Noam as well. Now, this is the first match announced. It's not really said that this is the comeback. This is going to be a big match. It's the last show ever in Kelvin Hall. It's promoted by Robert Florence, who's started at Burniston, one of Scottish entertainment's big names. And he has come to you. He wanted you on the show, you and Noam Dar. So what are you thinking going into this match? This is the start of a comeback, or I don't know, have I still got it?
The match in itself, I was personally kind of viewing it as it was what it was. I had wrestled Noam at the previous event they had promoted in the Oranmore in Glasgow. It was a good match, received very, very well. So they decided that they wanted this rematch in the Kelvin Hall show. And at the time, I was at least publicly putting it out there as just a one-off kind of special exhibition bout, so to speak. But in my mind, I was thinking, right, let's see what happens here. I did go into it very nervous, wondering if I still had it. Truth be told, I personally think the match wasn't that great at all. I remember coming backstage really, really upset. I'd missed certain cue points in the match. So it just didn't go how I envisioned or hoped it would go. Right. Everyone still said they thought it was like a kind of great match, but I guess, I don't know, maybe I put too much expectation on myself going into it, and I knew I had great chemistry with Noam anyway, so maybe I went in just thinking it was going to be good. I remember coming out of it thinking I was a wee bit kind of disappointed, but nonetheless I came out of it really thinking, I want to kind of see what I can do to get right back into this now. And at this point I'd already become aware of some of the comments starting to kind of make their way around. Oh, here we go, all right, we knew this was coming. So initially that was kind of hard to take a little bit, because I knew, as you would do, and I would probably have done it as well, people are now looking at you differently. They're judging you. You're now a bullshitter. You said one thing and now you're just coming back and doing the opposite, just like we knew you would, and you've made us all look stupid. So I was treading water carefully around that time, to be honest. As much as I knew I wanted to come back and whatever else, I was conscious that it's a different environment for me now.
Does the phone start ringing? Or are you back to that teenage boy with the paper CDs and the DVDs with your matches on it? Is the phone ringing? Or people, I know you're saying people aren't necessarily arms open, but are people wanting a piece of it? Like, you want
certain
to come
places,
back, that's fine.
And don't get me wrong, it had its benefits. I was able to make a little bit of a kind of deal of it. So with certain places, I could put my wage up, I could charge more money. It was easy for me to reach out to a few key promoters who I had a good relationship with, who I'd worked with, a good bit over the years. So I was because you become friends with these people because you work with them continuously. So I was able to comfortably kind of reach out to certain individuals and say, listen, decide I want to kind of come back. Be good if any opportunities. If not, cool. But if so, let me know. I'd love to do it. And it was as easy for me to get a foot back in the door in certain places in that respect. And then once that happened, the phone rang a little bit and it became a little bit of a thing. But wrestling's very quick fire. I mean, it was my comeback story was news for about a week. And then, something else is the kind of big deal. So it wasn't. I think people expected it.
Right.
That was the problem. Like when I left, I don't think there was anybody hand on heart really 100% felt he's gone.
Well, do you think you were a victim as well, slightly, of retirements in wrestling? Because legendary retirements in wrestling don't last. I mean, Terry Funk has. I think it is actually almost it's definitely double figures how many times he's retired. Ric Flair. I mean, you can think of lots of names. That have retired and then came back. So you think maybe there's a little bit residual of that? It's like, well, is it really a retirement?
I think that as well. Yeah, of course, that's a factor. I think as well in the grand scheme of things. In my mind, I was kind of like old. Once I'd hit 30, I thought, actually, you're old. If you haven't made it by the time you're 30, you're not making it. It's a different world now, but different business now. But that was the kind of unwritten rule or mentality at the time. So in my mind, I was kind of like now kind of almost too old for the kind of prime time wrestling, so to speak. But I think combination of retirements in wrestling, but everyone else kind of looking at me thinking, what are you doing, man? You're only 30. You're still young. So I think that combined, everybody just kind of knew it was coming.
I've been through absolutely everything with you in the last 10 years, and I'm proud from my heart to say I had your last match in my favourite wrestling company. So from me and everyone standing in this ring and everyone that was told backstage that they're a heel and they're not allowed to come out here, thank you.
Bomb. Take up too much of your time. I've had a wonderful time here performing for you guys, and I've had some fantastic matches in this ring, and I've had the opportunity to work with some amazing talent. And a lot of people are asking me, like, what are you going to do when you retire? And I'll do the shameless shill. I do promote my own events called Pro Wrestling Elite. But if you ask me, the phenomenal AJ Styles ain't a fucking patch on Grado. Listen, some of you are booing this guy, and do you know what? Do you know what I like about him? Listen, do you know what I genuinely, hand on heart, love about this guy? It's not that he's a shite wrestler. Hold on. He knows he's shite. He doesn't come out here and pretend to be fucking Kenta. He doesn't come out here and pretend to be some indie-rific superstar. He comes out here, he puts his heart and soul in the middle of the ring to entertain you. And just like each and every single one of you, every time you're here, he has the fucking time of his life, and I love him for that. So, what are you going to do when you retire, Lionheart? Well, the first thing I'm doing is I'm fucking going to McDonald's. The second second thing I'm doing. I'm coming back to this after party and I'm going to get smashed out my tits. And then just because I can, I'm going to go back to the hotel room and pump my missus.
You make your return to ICW and you go straight into a program which has dominated ICW for a few months. It's Mark Dallas versus Jackie Polo. So you have business with Jackie Polo. It is a feud that gets instant heat, instant attention. We've got your return, and Jackie Polo is probably the biggest villain in the company at that point. Now, what are you thinking? This is my return. There's a lot of onus on this, a lot of interest in this. What's your thoughts coming back into this? Are you trepidatious, excited?
I'm excited to be coming back.
Right.
I'm coming into it very, I don't want to say guarded as such, but I'm very aware that Jackie as a performer is very much going to do whatever he needs to do to make a name for himself, and he doesn't give a fuck what he has to say or do to do that. And prior to me coming back and going into this thing with him, I mean, I'd already had discussions with him behind the curtain, so to speak. So there was already that tension, nothing extreme, but I mean, it was very clear there wasn't much of a mutual love there. So to be coming back and going into a feud with him, I was just kind of, okay, we'll see how this goes.
Okay, we seem like we've almost been through here before, this journey with Jackie. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever gotten to ask you this question. I've asked him, what is it with Jackie Polo? Why do you guys just not seem to get on?
I don't know really fully. I can't pinpoint a specific thing that's happened or been said or whatever else. I think maybe a combination of a few different things. I think he was one of the ones that was more vocal about he's taken exception to the whole retirement thing. He made no secret of that, which is fair enough. I've made no secret that, you know, I wasn't really a fan of his very outspoken nature and how he was kind of going about things, trying to kind of make a name for himself, and you know, he was going to do what he was going to do regardless. And I think there's just some people you meet and there's people you meet and you click with and you hit it off, and likewise there's people you just think, I don't like you, and you can't quite pinpoint exactly why. You just look at them and think, I don't like your face. And I think that's just pretty much what it was. And then it just, from that point really, it became very easy to really dislike and, you know, latch onto the kind of the negative things that we viewed about each other. He's spoken about, you know, a couple of different incidents or whatever that's gave him a slightly negative kind of perception of me, and I don't agree with his, you know, view or take on that, but nonetheless that's how he's chosen to view it. And I think from those kind of smaller issues, it's just really snowballed from there. Yeah. And it just got to a point where it was really like we just don't like each other. You know what I mean? So
you guys have that, and you take it as all good wrestling feuds do. You take it to the ring, you take it through the curtain, and to get into it, they're getting very excited. They're getting very looking forward to it. Then we come to that night at PCW. Now, things are going very well. PCW are friends down in Preston City Wrestling. It's a hotbed company down in Northern England. Doing very well, gets lots of attention. You have been one of the biggest stars there since the early days of it, and you are wrestling AJ Styles for, if memory serves, the PCW heavyweight title. Talk us through what happened.
We had the match. Match was fine. Yep. I won the match. It was the main event. It was a weekender, so you had the show on the Friday, the Saturday afternoon, and the Saturday evening. So this was basically the main event of the Saturday night, the end of the big weekend. And the plan was to send the crowd home happy. So we planned that after the match, he would tip me with the Styles Clash and he would celebrate, and that was what was supposed to happen. I made a mistake. I moved my head the wrong way. This is as simple as I can explain it. I don't know why I can't really explain what my thought process was or what my conscious mindset was. I moved my head 6 inches in the wrong direction.
A phrase a friend of mine used, who is a police crime scenes officer. He said sometimes when people drive a car and they're in a car accident, for some reason on that night they do that weird thing. It's in your makeup somewhere. Yeah, we're all flawed as human beings. So, but the results of that injury were severe. It rippled throughout UK wrestling, rippled throughout the world. You were in hospital. There was talk of paralysation. You're lying in hospital. I don't like taking you back there, but if you can, within what you're okay with. What's going through your mind? What's going through your mind?
It's kind of up and down. When it initially happened, it was just panic and fear and emotion. I knew I'd made a mistake. I knew what I'd done. It took me, a little bit to kind of figure it out, but I realised I've tucked my head. I've fucked this. I made a mistake, and then I realised I couldn't feel anything from the neck down. So at that point, I'm thinking, that's done. I fucked it. I'm paralysed. Then, as kind of time progresses and the ambulance are arriving, start to get feeling back in the arms and legs and things. So start to think maybe it'll be okay. You get to the hospital. I had a few close friends with me. Noam Dar was there. Stephen Fudder, who's a PCW promoter, and Chris Travis were there as well. So they were with me. Started to get, kind of feeling back in my legs. I was obviously consciously awake. Started feeling kind of, decent spirits, I guess, for all intents and purposes, as best as you can be. So I was doing okay. At that point, I thought to myself, I'll be fine. It's been close, but I'll be fine. Then the doctor comes in to give me the results of the X-ray and says, okay, you've broken your neck in 2 places, vertebrae C, whatever. And he says, do you have any questions? I says, oh, yeah, am I going to be able to walk again? And he said, we don't know. And I don't know if it was slightly before or slightly after. Obviously, I get really kind of upset at that particular point. And obviously, messages are flying in to the guys who are with me saying, what's happening? Is he okay? Because at this point, it's spread through across social media. Everyone knows. So everyone wants to know, is he okay? What's happening? Some people think it's a storyline, which is fair enough. You're going to get that in wrestling.
It's everywhere.
Of course.
I'm just from my point of view, I'm thinking, I think it was Aberdeen or something. And people in Ayrshire, where we're from, are phoning me to go, is this a storyline?
You're always going to have that initial. It's just your automatic assumption.
Well, we actually had a show. We were in, I'd like to say Airdrie, and so one of the boys got a phone call to say that Adrian had taken a Styles Clash and he was paralysed.
And then somebody got a text or a phone call, I don't remember who it was, but quickly it filtered through the changing room that Adrian's broke his neck.
He had the worst injury of all, people come back from buggered knees or elbows or shoulders, but the guy nearly died.
He was in the ring, he couldn't move, obviously very worried. Couldn't contact anybody, didn't know who to speak to, didn't know what was going on.
And when that happened, I felt really sorry for him. And then when I got to know him more and more, I knew how much it got him down, that he broke his neck. But what I liked, he used it as fuel to make him better.
That seeing him like that made me think that was it for him. Just purely based on how vulnerable he looked that day at that show.
It's a hard thing to mentally get over. If you've broken your neck, forget your neck, if you blow your knee out and it gets better, when you get back in the ring again, you're frightened in case you do it again.
You see somebody like that, their most vulnerable point of their life, just looking at them like that, what is this guy gonna do? How is he gonna get through this?
It was one of those things you don't know if he's ever going to come back from it.
The way in which he dealt with it, because there was always going to be naysayers going like, oh, he's milking this, or he's putting this on, or the rest of it, and he handled himself like a true pro.
So all these messages are coming in, lots and lots of sympathy, lots and lots of concern. And I know that you are being very positive about it when we finally hear from you, which I think was like a day or two later. Obviously, you know a little bit more about the situation at that point.
Yeah.
When do you start hearing positive things coming from the doctor?
It was probably, I think it was the next day, because they sent me for an X-ray when I arrived, and then they wanted to keep me in and send me for an MRI the next day. So I was there overnight, and then the next day I went for my MRI and stuff, and then they took me back up, and I was just in the hospital. Then my parents came down, and my partner at the time came down as well. So, and then when the kind of doctor came and spoke to me and said, "Okay, I've done your MRI. There's no significant kind of nerve damage and things. Don't think you're going to need surgery." Things like that, and at this point, I was feeling okay. I was very, very sensitive in my arms and legs. Is the thing I remember. Like if just the bed sheet brushed against my forearm, it was the most excruciating pain I'd ever felt. It was just really weird. So they had looking at the bed sheets down, actually a sign up saying "Do not touch arms." And then the doctor came in and gave me the update and asked if I had any questions, if there was anything I wanted to do. And at that point, I asked him, "Can I try and walk?" Because that was the biggest thing in my mind. I thought, if I can't walk, then what am I going to? And it went beyond wrestling. It wasn't just I can't wrestle again. It just, you start thinking, what kind of life can you really lead now? What can I do? Am I going to get a job? What kind of dad can I be to kids one day?
Sure, people with injuries go on to have proactive lives, but you've gone from being an athlete, martial arts, wrestling, being very active in other sports, being a young man.
Yeah.
I mean, what, you're at that time 31 maybe?
Still 32, I think maybe.
Still 32. Yeah. To have that happen, that's got to be, it's going to be terrifying.
Yeah, there's a lot goes through your mind.
Yeah.
So that's what I've said. I said, look, can I try and walk? And they've helped me sit up, and I've put my feet in the ground, and that's when I've tried to kind of stand up, and I was able to stand up, and I couldn't like move or take steps, but I could stand, support my weight, and at that point I was okay. That's as good as I can expect it to be at this moment in time. So that was, I guess, when it started to be a little bit positive, considering the situation I was in.
Now, we'll have to even broach this in a lot of ways. There is all the messages concerned, get well soon. You've, I think by this point, you have made some type of statement, or statements been made for you on social media where you're very active. And a lot of people saying get well soon. One voice.
Yeah.
One voice. And we've discussed this before, but the tweet simply reads, "Another retirement looms." Now, you've got other things on your mind. What's your thoughts when you hear that?
I remember it was Noam Dar who was with me at the time, and it was him that saw the tweet first. And he's just kind of like, "You're not going to fucking believe this." And he showed me, and I just got upset by it, to be honest. Like, I know this guy doesn't like me. I know a lot of people probably don't like me. I'm under no illusions that we're in any way, shape or form friends. But at that point, I'm just thinking, how much of a sick fuck do you need to be really to put that out there? And I have a different view on it now in hindsight, but obviously at the time, given the situation and how emotional I am and whatever else, I just couldn't process it, in all honesty. Are you thinking, I don't deserve that? I guess, yeah. I'm just like, why would you do that? I don't get it. Yeah. I just don't get it. I don't.
What's your thoughts about it now? What's your thoughts about it? Looking back.
I look back at it now and I see it for what it was. Like Jackie Polo is not my friend. He will never be my friend. I've spoken with him regarding it since then. He doesn't apologise for it. He doesn't take it back or apologise for it. But he's had a chance to explain it and put it across in his terms. And I'll never agree with it. But to an extent, I understand it.
Okay.
I understand what it was at the time. It was a man who was very dedicated to his craft and character and persona. And he felt at the time that's how he should have responded to the situation. I don't agree with that, but I respect that that's his view and that's why he did it. So I kind of can make peace with it now that it wasn't personal. He wasn't happy that Adrian McCallum was lying in a hospital bed with a broken neck. Jackie Polo was somewhat happy that Lionheart had broke his neck, and that's, as much as it's blood, it's different.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Right. It's the beginning of 12 months. 12 months where, and I know pomp and circumstance, hype and what have you, doctors, you know, well, oh, this guy's come back, doctors have said no, shouldn't step in the ring. Doctors said no, you shouldn't step in the ring, you are done. Right, and what's your first thought when you hear those words? That you're done, no more wrestling, you're going to go and do something else now?
It's nothing I ever really considered as an option, to be honest. I just always believed I would just come back and do it. I was determined to come back and do it because I just didn't want to be remembered that way. There was definitely some irony behind it, like, you know, I just didn't want to be the guy who said he retired, basically lied about it, came back and then broke his fucking neck, because, I mean, what a punchline, you know what I mean? And I just, it's just not how I wanted it to end. So for me, there was never really going to be any other outcome other than me coming back and wrestling, even if it was just for a short time, just to kind of try and paint a different story as an ending. You know, when I came back, I didn't know how long it was going to last or whatever else. All I knew was I wanted to come back and just paint a very different story.
Adrian returning, it was kind of like two sides to it. It's like there was that initial sort of like he didn't know, like even if he was going to like be able to walk again, and that's where you kind of go like, is he going to like be able to come back to the point where he's actually going to be able to live some kind of a normal life? But the moment Adrian like started like walking and like slowly sort of like building himself back up, he's one of them people that if he sets a goal, he'll get to it some way, somehow. Like, and the moment that he turns like, yeah, I'm going to wrestle again at some point, that's when you knew it was going to happen, because he'd verbally and like actually like written down on like social media that I am going to do this. And he's not one of them people that when he says he's going to do something, he doesn't follow through on it.
There's a wrestling mentality that not everybody, but a lot of them have, where you do it just to prove that you can still do it, even if that means you hurting yourself again. I think he would have, if he'd have been told you're never wrestling again, I think he would have risked coming back and doing it again, just for his own pride. You know, I think he would have. I don't know. I mean, maybe he'll think I'm talking shit, but it's if ever there was a reason to go, that's it, I'm done, that would be it. But he said he was coming back, and he did.
And I'd had one of my many fallings out with the office, and I wasn't even going to bother showing up. He was a little bit out of it through the medication that he was taking, obviously for the pain, and he basically talked me down off the ledge. If anyone asks me what I think of Adrian, or if anyone turns around and goes like, oh yeah, Lionheart's a bit of a dick, I can now turn around and go, well, that dick went out his way when he's in this situation to keep me on the level.
We would see you at shows sporadically. You were still, obviously you were still promoting for Pro Wrestling Elite. You were still working with those guys. You were getting in shape. We saw the videos on social media, the first push-up, the little steps, and by the nature of wrestling, some people poked fun, other people saw it as a great inspiration, but every time you would see it, and you would stop by shows, you would let us know how you were getting on, we could see it. We could see it, because even working out in the gym had become very difficult for you. But you were coming back as well, and there could only be one program. There could only be one person you were going to face, and it was Jackie Polo. You announced at Barrymania that you would be, well, Barrymania, I think maybe even Fear and Loathing might have the date wrong there, but you announced to the ICW fans you were coming back. We announced the Jackie with a series of. So it's on the horizon. There is more anticipation for this match than there was before, and it was fever pitch. Before we get onto the match, just quickly, you said you only thought it was going to be a short period of time. Did it ever occur to you, I might not be up to this?
Yeah, definitely. I went into the match itself, well, just coming back in general, I was very, conscious of, am I still going to, how am I going to feel when I'm out? Am I still going to remember to do everything okay? Am I going to panic and do something stupid again? Am I going to get hurt? So there's a lot of apprehension just coming back in general. I don't think I've ever been as nervous or apprehensive for any moment in wrestling as I was that night when I came back to wrestle him. There was that worry of, and I want to be clear, I don't think in any way, shape or form he would have ever went out with any kind of malicious intent to hurt me or anything else, but the situation itself was very heated, it was very intense, and it had a lot of potential to go wrong.
Because it was, people are very happy to see you back in the ring, they're very happy to see the continuation of this feud. This had, I always used it as, it was such a unique match that we hadn't had in ICW before, because people knew that this is, and you talked about blurring the lines, they knew you guys do not get on. And I think in the legend of wrestling, the Bruno Sammartino versus Larry Sabisco, all these, what is going to happen here? It's fever pitch. The match realistically can it even live up to the expectations of what's going on? It's very uneasy to call from commentary. Very uneasy to watch, even with you guys just going to the ring for each other. The match has been analysed and looked over again and again and again. How did the match go for you?
It was shit. It wasn't a good match. It didn't, I don't think anyway, live up to the hype of what people expected or really wanted it to be, and I think that's a combination of different factors. I think it's a combination of, has there been a more anticipated match really in ICW? Not so much from a money drawing perspective, but just from I can't fucking wait to see what happens here, So it was very, very hyped in that sense. For me, when I step in the ring and I wrestle, I'm very passionate about putting on the best show and giving the absolute best I can. That wasn't my mindset that night. I just didn't care. I didn't care for him. I didn't care for the feud anymore. I wasn't emotionally invested in it. I just wanted the match done and to wash my hands with him. I just didn't want to deal with him anymore.
Do you think people didn't appreciate at the time that this was, it's like the end of an old memory. It's a photo of a time, it's a snapshot of a period in your life. You need to get rid of this. It's a reminder. Was that what it was? It was a reminder of 12 months of hell, 12 months of that night, even with AJ Styles. Is it a reminder just lingered?
I think, to be honest, it was just a reminder of just a shit time in general. And it was one of those moments where I just want this done and out. This is now an inconvenience.
Right.
I don't want this. I'm not interested in it. I'm not interested in having this match with this person. I knew from a business perspective it had to happen. It was just the chapter had to be closed off. But I was very realistic that it was just going to be a one-time deal. I just wasn't going to be anything beyond that. So I wasn't emotionally invested in the match itself, the outcome, the perception of the crowd. I just didn't care.
But this is odd, because I guess when people come back to wrestling, there's meant to be the Cinderella story. You're meant to come back to the big period of success, everyone's embraced you, and people act surprised when it doesn't go that way. But if you actually look back over a lot of these stories, they don't go that way.
No.
There isn't real fairy tales in real life. The reception you got when you came back, and you'd always been a polarising figure, you admitted that yourself. The warm reception went away a lot quicker than many expected. Up and down the country, really polarising reactions. You can wrestle in Kilmarnock for BCW. People delighted to see you.
Yeah.
You wrestle in London for ICW, booing out the building. And you are, inverted brackets, the good guy.
Yeah.
What are you even thinking at this time? Where is your headspace? Because you were always professional, you always turned up, you always did it to your abilities. But, and forgive me if this is speaking out loud, you could see that this wasn't what you were wanting.
Yeah.
You could see it, and like I say, you would go out and you would have these great matches. What are you even thinking during this time?
It's just heartbroken, to be honest. It was like, you genuinely thinking, I've given the majority of my adult life to this. Yeah. I've literally broken my body for it. I've went through the worst 12 months of my life to come back, and I'm coming into that situation thinking to myself, this is going to be brilliant. So the reception is going to be through the roof. Yeah. And then it didn't happen, and I was just like, I don't understand. I don't get it. I haven't actually done anything wrong. I just couldn't process it. Again, I can look at it in hindsight now, and I can understand reasons why. But at the time, I was just like, what do I do? I don't get it. So it was a difficult time, to be honest. It was hard for me to process and accept. And I was happy being back, and I was enjoying being able to wrestle. But it really took out my emotional engagement with it. I had such a fire and passion for coming back, and then I just got zapped really, really quickly when I, felt and heard the reception that I was getting, because I didn't understand, and I didn't think I deserved it. I felt that, given what I'd been through and how hard I'd worked to come back, at the very least, I deserved, the hero welcome, so to speak. I didn't get it, and it was tough. It was tough.
And this was, the year of the return. Certainly when you're back in the ring, it's not an easy time. It's not an easy time in and out of the ring. We won't go into too much of the details, but obviously Chris left us as well around about that time. That's a close friend of yours. That had to be hard. When do you turn all this bad luck, all this negativity, all these things happening? Because it literally seemed to happen overnight. What was happening in the ring started almost paralleling what was happening in real life and back again. Because out of nowhere, Lionheart went from being the fallen hero, if you will, to being someone completely different. We'd never seen this Lionheart before. How did the mechanics go with that? How did we start getting into the change from Lionheart, the good guy, to the mercenary? The mindset, the almost, where did we go from there?
I think I'll happily admit that, one of the major things I've always wanted, as much as I've got goals and aspirations and dreams, one of the main things I've always wanted is, I always wanted the fans' adulation. I wanted them to love me. And I don't mind admitting that. That's what I wanted. And I went through that phase where it was really hard for me to accept, to understand that they didn't. I was having some difficulty in my personal life as well. I'd lost kind of engagement and interest with wrestling. I wasn't going to the gym. I was losing a lot of weight. And people started commenting on it. People were having conversations with me. I was reading a couple of things online about, people. I'd actually read fans saying he doesn't look well. He's lost a lot of weight. I hope he's okay. And a couple of people in my personal life would speak to me and kind of say, are you okay? You doing all right? You losing a lot of weight and things like that. And over time, I would kind of open up a little bit with close friends, or I would have some conversations with them about things that were going on. And one of the things that I discussed was my kind of hurt and disappointment at the reaction or lack of that I was getting. And more often than not, when I had that conversation with people, their response was, fuck them. And eventually I thought, yeah, fuck them. I came back really for myself, but I came back for them as well. And if, you know, they're not going to respond to that, then yeah, fuck you. And then I took that and I put it into my performance. And there's old cliched saying in wrestling is that the best characters are extensions of their true selves and their true feelings. So I had this genuine anger and resentment for the ICW fans that were not giving me what I believed was what I deserved at the time, and I put that into my professional performance, and I think it just took off, and I think it was because it was real. Like, I literally, when I came out and I gave fans a finger and I said fuck you, I meant it. I absolutely meant it from the bottom of my heart. I literally thought, I broke my neck for you and you don't care. Well, fuck you and watch this.
Because it's to put it into words, people have to watch that first 6 months of the transition into, I don't want to say the fanny, because that's not what I mean. I mean, obviously there's a feud with Joe Hendry, but that chant,
yeah, that
is up and down the country, and a best-selling t-shirt, if I can just add that as well. It's still available. But you oozed hatred, loathing. And I think the fact that even when other bad guys would come out and they would give the finger, they would shout, you wouldn't even look at them. Mm-hmm. Just almost keeping your distance. I always remember commenting to, it would have been, I think it would have been William Grange at the time, or how close you would go to the ring so they couldn't even get out to touch you. Mm-hmm. You know, fans like to smack hands or touch the wrestler. And it almost seemed to aggravate them more and more and more every time, to the fact that the reactions you're getting is the most hated guy going out there. They want to see Lionheart lose so bad, and even when you lost, they still hated you. So you're not, so what's that feel? I mean, you haven't gone from getting the big positive reaction to getting even, and there's the old expression, you know, any heel heat's good heat, brother, you know, and all that. So when you go to this thing, what were you thinking? It's like, this is exactly what I'm after.
Initially, no. I didn't care. I think that's what really annoyed them. You know, when you're a heel, you know, your job is to go out there and piss the fans off and make them hate you. I just went out there and I didn't give a fuck if they loved me or they hated me, and I made that very clear. And I think that really came across, and I think that actually, because ICW fans are obviously more mature, they're smarter than your average casual wrestling fan, so, you know, they know when someone's, you know, purposely trying to aggravate them and, you know, get them to boo them, whatever else. But I think initially, you know, they looked at me, and I think because I made it clear, I just didn't give a shit. I don't care what you think, and that annoys them, because some fans themselves have a sense of entitlement. They think they're important. They are important. They're a huge part of the show. But I think because they weren't getting to me. I think, you know, I mean, a lot of heels will kind of get annoyed or, you know, respond to certain things in the crowd, and I'm just indifferent. It's just all me up in here. I'm the man, and I don't care what you say or do. And I think that aggravated them even further. And obviously now, you know, it's different. Once it kind of snowballed and I realised what I had, then I really kind of.
Because you started playing with them. Yeah. As well, like we would see little glimpses of maybe even a smile here or something, or maybe a little tease that maybe you were starting to let them in a little bit and shutting it down.
It took me a little bit of time to realise what I had, you know, and then once I kind of realised, I thought, man, they hate me. I'm just going to, this is fucking brilliant. I'm just going to roll with this.
But they loved to hate you. It started turning to that point. They loved watching Lionheart. You'd become, I don't want to say you're a forgotten man, but they weren't giving you the attention. They weren't giving you the focus that fans need to give a competitor when they step through that curtain. For, like you said, it's a two-way street. Lionheart is getting this reaction. He's not necessarily winning, but it's leading to something. And it finally leads to you winning the ICW 0G Championship. And no disrespect to the competitors I got before. I mean, obviously Kenny Williams had been a hugely successful champion, as had Andy Wilde and Noam Dar. So it's a great pedigree, this title. This is a title you held way back in 2010. as part of the gold label. So it's almost come full circle. How does that feel to be back in that position? Because in the scramble match where you won the title, people appreciated that you were there, but I think they almost took their eye off the ball a little bit. So when you won it, they were like, that motherfucker won the title. So you've really got them in the palm of your hand. And that run is almost legendary now in ICW, because you were taking on competitors up and down the country. You've elevated the title to a main event, almost. What are you starting to think about this time? You're feeling ownership of who you are as this bad guy, the mercenary, the bad motherfucker, whatever we're talking about at the time. Where are you taking this? What are you going to do? Because again, it's another step in the evolution of Lionheart. Where are you taking this?
Around the time of the Zero G title win, that had come the Zero G title win in itself was a very full circle thing, from the coming back from the injury, the venue, Barramania. I won the match with the Styles Clash after publicly calling for it to be banned. So everything in that sense, from a character's perspective, had come full circle for me, and to get that nod, from the company was really a massive deal, because as much as I had really built my confidence back up, I wasn't ever really sure I was going to get that nod of approval again,
right,
so to speak. So that was really good for me. And at the time, when I won it and then I went on my run with it, my mindset changed to, at that point, I was confident I was the top heel in the company. And I felt as if I didn't need to prove a great deal more in the kind of character side of things. So my mindset was, now watch me show you I can still turn it on. And I went out and I had great matches, but my mindset was always to do it in a sense that I would have a great match, but I would still be an absolute dick. So I wasn't getting the bad guy can go out and have a good match and the crowd can, that's good. Fair enough. He's a good wrestler. I was very careful not to get that and not get caught up in that. So I was still going out and basically standing up and saying, fuck you, I'm the man. But still, maintaining and not crossing that line. Because it's very easy to do that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of heels, kind of get caught up in the mutual respect thing, and it's easy to get the appreciation from the crowd, and it's a great feeling. I just was very careful to be true to the character side of it, but I wanted to show that I was still a main event talent, that I could still provide those type of matches. So that was probably my priority in the Zero G title run.
Just, I reckon, like 2016 to now, he's been the best performer consistently in this country, I think. Anyway.
He's never been afraid of being the person that needed to be hated.
Now, it would have been, to come to the end of that run, I guess, it would have been easy well, not easy, that's the wrong word. It would have been, you could have said, I'm going to have a singles match at the Hydro. I'm Zero G champion, I'm in this position in card, I'm going to do that. But there was the Stairway to Heaven series, where you would showcase all these other talents, which many said was a very selfless move. You're getting to do that. You could have easily defended him. I mean, Ricochet was on the show, and Lewis Girvin, and all these guys. And you told a real story with Kenny Williams by proxy with Kenny. Now, what's your thoughts on Kenny Williams? Because he was the Cain to your Abel. He was, he really much, he was the good guy to your villain.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on Kenny Williams? Because he seemed to be, you haunted him almost this time as the bad guy, if you like. What's your thoughts on Kenny?
The year, I think it went about 18 months in total, really, because he was the unfortunate victim of the fake broken neck incident, which really kind of kick-started the whole Fanny thing, I guess. But an 18-month run, Kenny, as an in-ring performer, is fantastic. I haven't looked at someone with the mindset of, you're going to make it. Just categorically, there's no doubt in my mind, I believe in my heart, you're going to be a world star. I've only ever looked at one other person like that, and that was Noam Dar. And I look at Kenny the exact same way. From a professional standpoint, he's switched on, he looks the part, he's confident, he's a great looking guy, he's phenomenal in the ring, He's just a wonderful talent, and a big thing for me for the whole feud, Kenny obviously being much younger than me, much fitter, more athletic, more gifted than me in the ring. For me, a lot of that was just proving I could keep that pace and keep up with him in a lot of stuff, and I think we did that. And it was, I grew quite close with him, I guess, over the course of the feud, working together and things like that. So it was good fun. I have really high opinion of Kenny in the ring. I know we had our differences and whatever else, but things are better now. But the big thing for me with him was just proving I could keep up with that kind of younger, faster paced, style.
They're good pals, and it's because he's not as much of an arrogance anymore. He's realised the errors and what he was doing back then, and he wouldn't give the time of day to someone who was below him in the pecking order, but he's been right at the bottom of the pecking order again and realised that he doesn't like the same people on the way down as it is on the way up. So if you're a dick on the way up to all those people, on the way back down they're going to be a dick to you. And he's been down at the bottom and he realised on the way back up I better be a bit nicer. And obviously he's done that, and now he's one of my good mates. He's definitely done a lot for me in the sense that he's given me some valuable advice throughout wrestling. He's done a lot in the sense that he's pushed for me in certain areas, certain companies, and I can't repay him for that.
So you have the big match, you have the Stairway to Heaven match of the Hydro. Lionheart loses the championship. Now, when people come off these big, almost showcase parts of their career, which it's been a great 2 years. Like you say, you've come back from the injury, you've evolved it into something like that. Sometimes in the wrestling world, when people come off these big events, they flounder.
Yep.
They don't know what to do, they don't know where to go. You're the most experienced man in the roster in lots of ways. What are you thinking? Because you've been through all these different steps, you've worked all this hard, lost the belt, what's next?
I just knew I wanted to keep myself in the main limelight, really. I just, exactly as you said, very easy to come off of a major feud or whatever, and then just, companies can very easily just look at you and think, okay, we've done something with you now, so just going to move you to the side. We're going to kind of focus on this, and you've really got to fight to keep your spot, and that's something that took me a long time to learn. For a lot of years, I just assumed my spot would always be there, and I had to learn very harshly that wasn't the case. So when I came off the back of the Hydro show and the Stairway to Heaven, I just made a very conscious effort to ensure that everything I was doing, whether it was in the ring and promos and interviews, I was going to keep myself at that high elite level. And there was only really one direction to kind of go in. The thing that had arguably been the dominant factor in that great run, the Lionheart as a fanny thing, it was time to tackle the source, so to speak.
But we've got to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's such a big thing. I mean, Kurt Angle had his "You Suck." Lionheart has Lionheart as a fanny, which came off a video by the local hero Joe Hendry, who at the time, not so much now of course, at the time was known throughout the wrestling business for he would do these parody music videos.
Yeah.
But this was arguably the biggest one.
Yeah.
Everyone is singing this, like even at non-ICW shows, even at shows you're not even on, people are singing this. What's your first thoughts when you see this? I mean, does Joe come to you? Does the production guys come to you? Do you have any idea this is going to happen?
I knew there was a video coming,
right?
Because that was his thing, as you mentioned. I didn't know what it was or what the context of it was. The first time I saw it was when I was out there, and I mean, I have to admit, at the time, and I was in the ring and I saw it, and I just thought, right, okay, that's funny, and I couldn't really contain my.
I do remember the very stoic Lionheart had to get out of the ring and effectively hide from our crack crew at ringside. Obviously, it was yourself tagging with Liam Thompson. You were taking on the local fire.
Yeah.
But it never went away.
No, it didn't.
It got louder and louder and louder every week. Then some genius started selling Lionheart as a fanny t-shirt.
Whoever it is, right?
Become best-selling t-shirts across the UK. So it's a huge thing. The feud with Joe Hendry.
Yeah.
We've got to go. It had one of the most unique starts ever, which is almost like a little small almost a little Easter egg. You're blinking, you missed it. But did it powder up? It starts with that promo. The garage. Now you're coming out, Lionheart's a big part of the show. We don't know where Lionheart's going next. Talk us through the promo.
I wanted to do something that was going to get a reaction. I didn't set out to be, malicious or disrespectful, but I wanted something that was A, going to get a reaction, and something B, that was kind of a rebuttal to the thing he was doing. He was focusing on the whole selfies with your Doug thing. So this kind of sprung to mind for me as a rebuttal to that, so to speak. When I said the comment, I heard the reaction. I thought, right, okay.
Nah, I'd take selfies.
His dog is a wee cutie enough,
Listen, see if you've got a dog as good looking as mine and you're not taking selfies with it, you're a fucking wanker.
That's a good point. We love a selfie with our dogs.
So I'll tell you what, Joe Hendry, I'll stop making selfies with my dog when you stop shagging one.
Did you legit? I mean, because you'd said before you didn't run this comment past Joe.
No, I didn't.
Is that?
I didn't run it past
straight down the line.
No, I didn't run it past him. I kind of did. Like, I sent him a message 5 minutes before I went out saying, "Mate, can I say this?" He didn't get back to me, and I thought, "Fuck it, say it anyway. It'll be fine."
Fast forgiveness and permission.
Aye.
Kind of thing.
And then I get backstage and I was like, I'm going to need to message him. And he'd actually replied to the original message saying, "Oh, I don't really know, mate. No, I'm not really comfortable with that." So I had to be kind of like, well, I've said it. Sorry, I've been out and said it. And I think initially it was kind of like, oh, right, okay, we'll see what happens. And then I think obviously she'd get wind of it.
Yeah, because the ICW fan base, I mean, I'm not going to mention names, of course.
Aye.
They're a tight-knit community.
Of course, yeah.
And she frequented the show
Yeah.
as a fan, and of course in the relationship with Joe, she's well liked by everyone. So where do we go from here? You guys are... Joe's clearly not happy, and I don't want to say you've not put your foot in it. This has happened.
Yeah.
There is no way to take this back.
It's done.
Right. But you guys are heading into a program together.
Yeah.
So how do we move forward with this?
At that point, I was just like, we had the conversation. It made it clear he wasn't happy, which was fine, understood. Apologies were made, conversations were had, and I said, what are we going to do with it? Because there's something there, and I don't think it's something that can be ignored from a creative perspective. You can't ignore it. So let's just work with them. Let's fuck with them.
Okay.
So we did.
And was Joe into that?
We loved it.
Okay.
Absolutely loved it. And everything from...
Did he have to make apologies to his girlfriend?
I think he was like I kind of spoke to her myself as well. I says, look, I will kind of make this right. I will make the peace. So I kind of did a bit of damage control and whatever else, and said, look, it's my bad, my error of judgment, whatever else. But nonetheless, I think
she appreciated that.
It worked. She understood it. She's a clever girl. She's not
a wrestling fan as well.
Exactly. So she was respectful. She said, look, I'm not happy. A heads up would have been nice, but I get it.
Right.
And we decided that we're going to use it and we're going to see what we can get from it. And then everything from that point onward was just intricately planned. Yeah. Start to finish.
Okay, well let's kick off in Manchester. As we're doing the open doors version of this. I know something's going to come on.
Yeah.
Right, and even you guys at ringside were going, and I think you actually go, do you want to know exactly what's going to happen? And whenever I hear a wrestler say that, particularly yourself, I would go, no, no, I don't want to know what's going to happen, because I'd rather give them a genuine reaction.
Yeah.
Got pretty good at riding what you guys are doing, but it's like, well, I don't know what's going to happen. Well, the match is going to get thrown out. That's as much as we got told. How do you guys go about putting this together? Because it's a very unique way. I don't think it's been done, certainly not recent memory. of what you guys did in the ring that night in Manchester. So how did you go about putting that together?
I think the big thing is, like, we planned it so intricately. It was like, it's easy to get caught up in these work shoot situations where two guys are like, oh, we'll just start kind of stiffing each other a little bit, and then, you know, we'll get pulled apart, and it just looks cartoony a lot of the time. And as much as it might be intense, whatever else, it just doesn't look how it's supposed to look.
Yeah.
So it was very much a case of, I said to him, well, what would you do? What would you do? And he says, oh, I would take you down to the mat and I would choke you out.
Okay.
I said, do it. Take me down to the mat and try and choke me out, and then I'll just fight you off. And then I said, let's just shoot, fight with each other without punching each other in the face, you know, whatever else. Just do what you would do, and, you know, we'll roll about, and then hopefully people get there in time to split it up, and we'll see how it looks. And they did. And then we did that. Look, it came off very, very well. I think everyone bought it.
Because it was an uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah, exactly, and that's how we planned it that way. It wasn't everything, even like from the commentary from yourself, was intricately planned. The next step from Simon, don't acknowledge it, just cut, move on. Don't put it on demand, don't reference it online, let them think. And as soon as wrestling fans start thinking, it just snowballs, and they just do it for you.
This is a very different Joe Hendry, isn't it? The pumping circumstance is gone. What are they saying? I don't know whatever he just said to Lionheart, but that stung. You saw the expression change in his face. Okay, Thomas Kern's marriage. Get these two separated. Okay, here we go. Colin will tie up in the ropes, much more powerful. Joe Hendry. But you can see it scrambling there. The referee trying to get these two separated again.
These men aren't even listening to Thomas Kerr.
Yeah, you look at that.
He's physically trying to...
Still talking to each other, Whoa. Okay, it's gone to ground and pound. That's the last place Lionheart wants to be.
Joe Hendry, ranked number 2 now.
I think Joe's going for it. What? Whoa. Right. No. Eventually, there seems to be only one way of going down. An unsanctioned match, Shug's house party. It's a big weekend for ICW. But there's an interest. Something starts happening that everyone notices, but it's really subtle. The cheers, I can't even call them cheers, the reactions for Lionheart are bigger and bigger. Whether it's the love and the hate you, but they are loving to hate you. The reactions for Joe, not so much. The fans don't seem to be as on board with his journey in this. So we get to Shugs, and Joe has become kind of a little bit of a controversial character outside of ICW. The fans are all about Lionheart on that night, that unsanctioned match, and anything can happen. Legitimately, I saw you sign the waivers. Anything can happen. Bearing in mind what happened in Manchester, bearing in mind what happened at Baramania, you're going into a match where ICW is waived of any injuries. You cannot sue, there can be no negligence. This is probably the biggest risk you've taken since coming back from the neck break. Going into that ring, into that match. All the times you put against the parallel, some people have even said, he's the next Lionheart, he's the next name that's going to go throughout the UK. There's parallels between the two of you. What are you thinking? The fans are more behind you than they ever have been.
Yeah.
But this could be the big roll of the dice.
It was just really strange. Like, I remember I went into the match consciously thinking some of these fans might be into me here, based on the kind of the journey of the story. And I think there was a couple of different factors within that. I think the way that things played out, I think you would look at it on paper and think, from the Manchester incident, Joe was in the wrong.
Right.
He was in the wrong. I think a lot of fans recognised that. As much as I maybe crossed the line or pushed the envelope a little bit, really all I did was make a comment in a microphone. He's maybe kind of taken that slightly a step too far. He had missed a couple of shows because he was working for another company, which a lot of ICW fans really don't like. There seems to be this kind of, you know, fan warfare between the two companies. So I think his predominant position in that company was potentially having a negative effect on his position in ICW in the eyes of the fans, because ultimately what they would have seen on more than one occasion was him prioritising them.
Do you think you were the hometown boy?
I don't know. I wouldn't call it like a kind of hometown thing. I think maybe it was just a simple case of Lionheart's here and Joe's no.
Yeah. You're here every week. You're at every show.
Yeah.
We have invested in the journey of this guy.
Yeah.
So let's go back to actual shows. You guys in the ring. It's a very physical match.
Mm-hmm.
The fans are white hot for everything you guys are doing in the ring. Joe Hendry is getting booed out the building, and fans are cheering you. To go back to something you said earlier, you'd always wanted that love, you'd always wanted that adulation from the fans. You got it, but you had to make them hate you more than they ever thought possible. I know I know from talking to you in the past, you're always very invested in what you're doing in the ring. You're not necessarily, you know, thinking about what the fans are thinking at this point. You just want to give the best match you can. But you had to feel it, surely, in that ring on that night, just the intense reaction to you.
I didn't really consciously take it on board until the match was over. But I came out and I was very focused. I just still did what I did. I mean, I was aware that there was a kind of slight mixed reaction. Mm-hmm. And as the match progressed, it seemed to become more. But I didn't really process it until the match was finished. Right. And I remember there's a moment after the match. Joe's trying to offer me a handshake, and you know, at this point he's leathered me in the head with a steel chair and busted me open. So he's trying to give me a handshake. And at this point, I've dropped him, and then I've stood up and I've looked directly out onto the crowd, and they're going fucking bananas. And I'm just like, what is happening here? What is actually going on?
Is it just one of those moments that we live for in wrestling that just surprises us all? It
really caught me off guard, in all honesty. Like I remember standing there looking out and I was thinking, what he's fucking doing? Make up your mind, man. I mean, then I walked up the ramp and I stopped and I stood up and again and then started the Lionheart as a hero chant, and I was like, what is life, you know? And it was just, it was pretty surreal. And there was actually a part of me felt sorry for Joe a little bit, because he was pretty much beginning to experience what I had experienced. And whether he admits it or not, I saw the look in his face when he walked up that ramp and come back through the curtain. That hurt him. It did hurt him. And I can probably say quite confidently, having not even spoken to him about it, when he goes out there and now he's got a very different mindset of what he says and thinks to the audience, that's Joe Hendry, the man. He means it. And it's, in my opinion, going to take him to new heights.
I think when you've been doing this for as long as Adrian, when something clicks for you, you know what to do with it. Like the hero and the fanny thing, like he just knew what to do with that because he had the experience to carry it. And you see some people who get that a bit too early on in their career and they don't know how to handle it. They handle it wrong, but he just knew how to handle it. And I guess it all comes full circle, really, doesn't it? I mean, I feel if you were to ask him, I don't know what he said, but I think he would probably feel like now he's probably where he left off. He's probably picked up where he left off before the injury.
But you've done it to yourself again. You've had another big feud that's captured the fans. The very next night, there you are in the middle of an ICW ring. You've just dropped Molly Spartan. What's next? What's next? Here we are. You're out there. You're standing for the first time. The ball's in your court. What's next? What are you thinking? I have to start again. What's the next challenge? What's going through your mind on that night?
I'm kind of thinking two things. I'm thinking, like, for myself going forward, I want to make my intentions very clear. I've done my time. I came back. I proved myself in every way imaginable. I want my shot. I deserve my shot, and I better get it. So I wanted to go out and get that point across. I also wanted to be very careful not to latch on to the fact that the fans had somehow, done this kind of turn, so to speak, because I was kind of thinking about it before I went out, and it'd be very easy for me to just accept, the cheers, and I thought about it, and I just thought, no.
Because there is no real change.
Nah, you had your fucking chance to cheer me. You didn't want it. If you want to cheer me now, cool. But don't ask me to care. Don't ask me to care. Because I don't.
So Mark Dallas gives you an opportunity. You want a marquee match, you want a big match, and he gives you one. At the Hydro, you'll finally get that singles match at the Hydro. It's going to be you versus the whole fucking show. Versus Rob Van Dam, former ECW, former TNA, former WWE heavyweight champion. You won the adulations, you've done your time. How do you feel about this match? You've had the match with Jeff Jarrett that you thought was maybe going to lead to something. You've had those opportunities. This is on your terms, in your place. How do you feel about this match?
I don't think there's many wrestlers better suited to ICW, what ICW is and represents, than Rob Van Dam. How he's started his career and how he's progressed through it, he's almost just a perfect fit for the company. He's a huge name in the world of professional wrestling. One of arguably the biggest names of all time, you could argue. For me, it's a big proving match, because as much as I've proved myself in a lot of areas, the last couple of years, in the ring, outside and whatever else, this is a big... A lot of people will argue wins and losses don't always matter in wrestling. In a lot of respects, they don't. This does. I need to beat him. I need to win that match. It's just about... I've mentioned in promos there's a systematic 3-part process to my full circle rebirth, whatever you want to call it, in ICW, and this is very much step 1. It's the marquee singles match, main event worthy, and I'm coming out the winner. And when I come out the winner, I have something else to do. And then after that, it's the final piece of the puzzle, which is step 3.
So you beat Rob Van Dam at the Hydro.
Gonna go for the final moment, that frog splash of his own.
Boom!
1, 2, 3, what a win!
With his very own move, the 5-star frog splash. Lionheart.
Step 1.
Step 1. Can you tell us what step 2 is?
No. But when it happens, the world will talk.
See, as of last night, my plans have changed. And this isn't because I want to, this is just because I need to. I can't be ICW World Heavyweight Champion until I beat you.